So, I watched Beetlejuice 2. It's actually called Beetlejuice, but it's too difficult to keep saying that. I'm just going to call it Beetlejuice 2. Now, usually, I don't like, pointless remakes and sequels that are a million years after the original and all that. And especially when I'm a fan of the original. When I'm a fan of the original, I get precious about it. But I watched the new one out of curiosity, and I did enjoy it. It is good. One of the reasons it's good is because it actually... Not only is it okay that they made a sequel 25 years after the original, it actually seems necessary. They've done a good job with the storyline of making it take place 25 years later or whatever, 30 years later or whatever. So I was happy with that. There didn't seem anything unnecessary about... It didn't seem like a pointless remake or a reboot or whatever you call it. I'm still a fan of Beetlejuice. I used to love it when I was a kid. I used to watch it over and over. And I still like it as an adult. And there's been times in life where I've showed it to people that have never heard of it. They're like, what the fuck is Beetlejuice? I'm like, you've got to watch Beetlejuice. And I either lend it to them and then ask them what they think, or I sit there and watch it with them. I love watching a film that I like with someone who's never seen it and see how they react. And generally, people are like, oh my god, I've never seen a film like this. There's nothing like it. But one of the best qualities about Beetlejuice is that it's original. Like, whether you like Beetlejuice or think it's the best film or not, it's like, well, you've got to appreciate that it's original and there's no other film like it. But is it that original? Is it really? I've learned that maybe it's not. So, check this. When I was a kid, one of the things that I've totally got over now, ages ago, but when I was a kid, I was actually the biggest pussy in the world when it came to horror films. I've got an older sister who's a few years older than me, and she loved horror films, and she would rent them out from Blockbuster Video and go, you got to watch this, and I'd be like, no! And she would make me watch them, and I'd have nightmares for fucking months, and I'd just try and avoid horror films as much as I could, because she was always watching them, and I hated it. I was scared. And then when I got older, I just got over that, and I started going back and watching some of the ones that I heard were good, and go, well, I'm not scared anymore, I'll watch them. And some of them are shit anyway. But I had a friend once who was obsessed with the Hellraiser films. He was like, I love Hellraiser, I've got them all on DVD, you've got to watch them. Can't believe you've never seen them. So I sat down and watched Hellraiser 1 with this dude once. He was insistent, I've got to watch them. And the first one is nothing like I thought it would be. You think it's going to be all about this dude with pins in his head and shit. And that is in it, but it's 5 minutes of the film, right near the end of the film. The film has nothing to do with that. It's about this dude that's this crazy sex addict fucking masochist. And he wants more, and he wants to experience everything, and he summons these demons, and then they come and take his soul or something, and then he's trying to get back into his old body, and it's this whole fucking film about that. And at the very end, the pinhead demons, Xenobites or whatever they're called, come back to claim his soul or something. They're in it for 5 minutes. And I remember watching it and just thinking it was really weird, and it wasn't anything like I was expecting, and then I never ended up watching any of the sequels or anything. So that was years ago. And then fairly recently, about a year or two ago, I was like, well, I never watched any of the sequels. Maybe I'll watch... I heard somewhere that Hellraiser 2 is much more like what you expect a Hellraiser film to be about. It's more about Pinhead and demons and shit. So I was like, well, maybe I'll watch Hellraiser 2. But I saw Hellraiser 1 years ago. Maybe I need to recap and watch that again so I remember what it's about. And then I'll watch Hellraiser 2. So I sat there and watched Hellraiser 1, even though I've already seen it, and sort of forced myself to watch it again. I was like, oh yeah, I remember now. Now I'm ready to watch Hellraiser 2. And I was so pissed off. Because at the beginning of Hellraiser 2, they don't just do a recap of Hellraiser 1, they pretty much show the whole fucking film. They don't just do a 30-second recap, they do a 10-minute full-on shows you Like, it actually shows all the key scenes from the first one and explains it, start to finish. I was like, oh my god, I so badly didn't need to re-watch Hellraiser 1. I could just watch Hellraiser 2, and they show you Hellraiser 1 in the first 10 minutes. They show you everything you need to know. And they actually show it. They show the clips of the old film. So I start watching Hellraiser 2. I'm super pissed off that I didn't need to watch Hellraiser 1 again at all. They just full-on recapped it perfectly in the second one. So then I'm halfway through the second one, and there's a bit in the second one where, because it's much more to do with the afterlife and the demons and everything, there's a bit in the second one where the wall opens up to the afterlife. There's a doorway in the wall. And coming from the afterlife is sort of like this green, misty light. And I was like, that's like Beetlejuice. Because there's a bit in Beetlejuice where, you know, draw a door. Not 3 times, and then they open up to the afterlife. And then there's a door in the wall with green light coming from it. So I see that in Hellraiser 2, and I'm like, that's like Beetlejuice. And then I'm like, wait a minute. Wait a fucking minute. It ain't just the door in the wall that's like Beetlejuice. Let's go over this. Ready? I suddenly start comparing Hellraiser 1 as well to Beetlejuice. And I start realising how many comparisons there are. It's like, in Hellraiser 1, a family move into a new house, and the mum of the family, she has short red hair, and she's not really the mum, she's a stepmother, and she doesn't really get along with the daughter. The stepmother doesn't get along with her stepdaughter, and the stepdaughter is a wide-eyed, dark-haired young girl. Guess what? In Beetlejuice, it's about a new family that move into a new house, and the mum has short red hair, and she's not really the mum, she's the stepmum, and she doesn't get on with the daughter, who is Winona Ryder, who is a wide-eyed young girl with dark hair. They move into a new house, and there's a dead guy in the attic. This is Hellraiser. And there's a spooky spirit in the fucking attic. Just like in Beetlejuice, Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis are dead, and Beetlejuice is in the model in the attic. As I've already mentioned, in both films there is a part where the wall opens up like a doorway in the attic, opening up to the afterlife, and there's like a green, blue, sort of misty light coming from it, both times. In both films. In Beetlejuice, there's a part in the afterlife where you're in like another dimension, another planet or something, and there's these giant worms. I always saw that as a piss take of June, because there's big sandworms in June, and then in Beetlejuice they're like these ridiculous Tim Burton style black and white crazy worms. And it is obviously taking the piss out of June, but also in Hellraiser 2 there's this whole part where you go into the afterlife and you're in this like labyrinth of hell, and there's like this giant worm thing that sucks that dude's head and is carrying him around or whatever. There's these worms in the afterlife. And there's a part in Beetlejuice where Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis are walking down the corridors of the afterlife, and there's like a janitor mopping up or something, and there's a door that they look in, and they go, what the hell is that? And the janitor goes, that's the lost souls room. That's death for the dead. There's like another layer of death, like you can die even when you're dead, like your soul goes even further into this like limbo. And it's like, that's what Hellraiser's about. It's about, yeah, you're dead, but then it can get worse than that. Like these Cenobite things can come and claim your soul, and it's death for the dead. It's like you can go further into death, where, yeah, it's like the same concept, basically. And in Hellraiser 2, you know, you learn a lot more about the afterlife and the underworld and hell or whatever it is. And you learn that there's these sort of like laws in the afterlife, and that's kind of what the Cenobites are. They're kind of like the police of the afterlife, or they're judges, and it's like a judge and jury sort of thing where they're going to weigh justice and see if you should be claimed by them or you get to be free or whatever. It's like, yeah, there's sort of like a bureaucracy in the afterlife. And Beetlejuice is obviously just taking the piss out of that and making it a comedy where you go to the afterlife and there's a waiting room and then you get your number and then there's all these people doing paperwork and in the afterlife and there's all these rules, you know, never show yourself to the living. And you've got Juno, the caseworker, that woman that's got... It took me ages, by the way. I've watched Beetlejuice 100 times before I ever actually noticed that Juno, the caseworker... In Beetlejuice, everyone looks like they did when they died. So Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis look normal because they drowned, so there's nothing... But there's people in the afterlife that are burnt and they're all black and burnt, and then there's a dude that's got a big shark on his leg. And yeah, Juno, the caseworker, when she smokes cigarettes, smoke comes out of her neck. She's got a slit throat. It took me ages to notice that. The smoke coming out of her neck every time she inhales. But anyway, what am I saying? Yeah, Beetlejuice is obviously taking the piss out of Hellraiser and just taking it a step further and making out that the afterlife is just full of bureaucracy and you got to go through all of these, fill out these forms and read this book and all of this bullshit. It's just making a joke out of it. And then the other comparison is, you know, what did I say about Hellraiser earlier? I thought it was all about Pinhead and the Cenobites, and in the first Hellraiser film, that's only like 5 minutes of the film. It's hardly any of the film. It's actually about that. The Pinhead bloke is hardly in the film, even though he's on the front cover of the film. Well, guess what? Beetlejuice is famous for, you know, the main character is hardly in the fucking film. You're way past, like, halfway through the film before Beetlejuice even makes an appearance. He's really not in it much. It's all about Alec Baldwin and his wife and the family moving in. Just like Hellraiser is more about the family moving in and the uncle that's dead in the attic and he needs blood to live. Obviously none of that is in Beetlejuice, the whole I need blood to live thing. In Beetlejuice, it's the demon... Beetlejuice is supposed to be a demon, much like the Cenobites, and he needs to marry a living person to unbreak the curse that he's under or whatever. And he tries to marry Lydia. So there's a difference in storyline there, but really not really. And everything else about it is so obviously plagiarised. And it's a spoof. Beetlejuice is basically a spoof of Hellraiser. It's a comedy. It's Hellraiser the comedy. Which is pretty funny, I suppose, but it takes away from what I always saw Beetlejuice to be. I always saw it to be this totally original, one-of-a-kind. There's no other film like this. How the fuck did you come up with this? But now I totally see how you come up with this. You just watch Hellraiser and Hellraiser 2 and go, imagine if we made a comedy out of this. Imagine if we made The Afterlife like a load of paperwork and bullshit, and imagine if... Yeah, we just do the same story. A family moves in, and we even make it exactly the same, where it's a stepmother with red hair, and she doesn't like the daughter, and the daughter doesn't like her. But we'll make the Pinhead character Beetlejuice, and we'll make him hilarious instead of scary. Which is funny. It's still a good film. I'm not saying I don't like Beetlejuice anymore. I'm just saying I just didn't watch horror films at all growing up. And then when I grow up, I go, oh, I might as well check out these Hellraiser films. And then I go, what the fuck? This is Beetlejuice. And I always loved Beetlejuice because I thought it was so original. It's not really. Oh, and here's the worst part. I looked up the year that they came out. Hellraiser and Hellraiser 2 came out. Hellraiser 2 came out like a year before Beetlejuice. So it's so obvious that Tim Burton just watched Hellraiser and Hellraiser 2 and went, I'm doing that. It's not original at all. It came out like... I think Beetlejuice came out in 88. And Hellraiser 2 was like 87, and Hellraiser 1 was like 86, I think. So it kind of ruins this like illusion that Beetlejuice is the most original, one-of-a-kind movie. And I think that's why I sort of don't really care as much now that they've made a sequel out of it. That's why normally I just wouldn't even watch the sequel. I'd be like, I'm not watching your new stupid shit. Why are you doing that? But I've become less like precious and protective over Beetlejuice as I've realised that it's basically just a rip-off of Hellraiser. And it's not original at all, really. Now, it's still great what Tim Burton did, and Danny Elfman's music on it, Beetlejuice soundtrack, is one of my favourites. And also the sequel isn't someone trying to do a sequel. It's like, no, it's Tim Burton directing it and Danny Elfman's doing the music, and they got Michael Keaton and Winona Ryder. They've got the same actors, same director, same music. So it's a legitimate sequel. That's another thing. But normally I'd go, oh, what's the point? Why are you doing that? Just leave it alone. Leave it alone, it's so original. But since I've watched the Hellraiser films, I'm like, oh, well, it's not really that original. No need to be so precious about something that is actually just a spoof of fucking Hellraiser. But if you've never seen these films, I guess you don't care what I'm talking about, but if you've seen both of them and not noticed that, like, you're going to notice it now. And if you've seen one of them and not the other, if you've seen Beetlejuice and not Hellraiser, or if you've seen Hellraiser and not Beetlejuice, I suggest you watch it and you'll be laughing at how ridiculously obvious it is that Hellraiser inspired Beetlejuice. It's just the comedy version. Just another thing that I thought was so original about it. I'm like, this isn't a horror film, but everything about it is like horror style. But it's obviously a comedy. What came first? Did they try and make a horror film and go, no, this could be really funny? Or did they try and make a comedy and go, yeah, let's make it weird and scary? And yeah, like I said, that illusion has been broken now. I'm like, oh no, it wasn't that. They just watched Hellraiser and went, let's make this, but make it totally crazy and funny instead of terrifying and fucked up. And that's another comparison, is Pinhead and the Cenobites, like some of the other Cenobites, one of them's like a female and they've got their throat split open, much like Juno the caseworker from Beetlejuice. Like, they look how they look. They're like constantly in torture mode. Like Pinhead also, he doesn't just have pins in his head. He has ripped up nipples. He's constantly got his nipples out. He's wearing like a leather thing, but there's little holes cut where his nipples go. He's constantly getting his nipples tortured and his pins in his head. And the female Cenobite has got her throat slit open constantly and all of this shit. It's just so obvious that Tim Burton just watched Hellraiser and went, I'm going to do something like that. But yeah, I've literally never heard anyone ever make this comparison. I've never heard anyone go, have you ever watched Beetlejuice and thought it's just Hellraiser? Or have you ever watched Hellraiser and thought, wait a minute, this is like Beetlejuice, but serious? And like, am I the only one that's like noticed this? Like I said, I just never watched horror films growing up. Never saw any Hellraiser film. But I saw Beetlejuice like 9 zillion times. I know it like the back of my hand. I just know it inside out. So then I finally get round to watching Hellraiser. And even I was halfway through the second one before I went, this is like Beetlejuice. Wait a minute, it's exactly like Beetlejuice. It's still a great movie and it's still funny and I still like it. But I'm just saying, if this is the case, then Tim Burton must just be like laughing at how no one in the whole world has ever made this comparison. I've never heard or seen anyone go, hey, have you ever noticed that Hellraiser and Beetlejuice are exactly the same film? But Tim Burton must know that they're exactly the same film. And Clive Barker must know. Clive Barker surely watched Beetlejuice and went, wait a minute. This is my fucking movie. But you're just making it silly. Maybe there is evidence out there of either one of them saying this. I've never seen it. I've never heard it. I've never heard anyone make this comparison. But to me now it's clear as day. I can't unsee it, if you know what I mean. I can't watch Beetlejuice now without going, yeah, this is actually just Hellraiser, the piss take. But yeah, for once, the sequel has not ruined the film, it's actually improved it, because Beetlejuice 2 is actually nothing like Hellraiser, other than the comparison I made earlier about the afterlife being sort of like this, it's just more of the same shit you face in life with all these rules and laws and stuff. Other than that concept, there's nothing really about Beetlejuice 2 that's anything like the Hellraiser films. So it's actually kind of salvaged the first one and made it better, which is so rare. It's so rare when someone digs up an old film and does a reboot or a remake or a sequel and not only doesn't ruin it, but kind of actually improves it. I'm really pleasantly surprised by that. But I'm still sad to say that along my journey of this, I've discovered and revealed and realised that Beetlejuice 1 is not an original film at all.